Hey guys, what's up? I haven't made a video in a long time, only because leading up to the last meet that I had 2 weekends ago, it was pretty much just a deload week, and then the past like 2 weekends or whatever haven't been anything really serious, just because typically after a meet my CNS is pretty fried and my strength kind of goes down. So I really haven't done anything serious, but I'll start posting more frequently within probably next week. I'll probably try to just get like a video a week. I don't think I can commit to like a bench video, deadlift video, squat video. I'll just try to do it all together in one. But today I wanted to talk about just a little bit of how my training style has changed over the years from when I first started. So some of you may find this interesting to listen to, so I figure I'd share it. I started lifting about 8 years ago, and that was primarily bodybuilding style of training. So really actually the first book that I picked up was this one right here, the Arnold Schwarzenegger book or Encyclopedia Modern Bodybuilding. And that one really opened the doors for me, and it made me really interested in bodybuilding as a whole. So for a while I did the whole sort of like bodybuilding split style of training, so like chest day, back day, leg day, that sort of thing. And what it did for me was it really gave me a good base for me to build size. When I first started, I was only 115 pounds, so using that style of training, I managed to get up to probably like 160, 165, which is right around when I started powerlifting. And that was 8 years ago when I was 16. So it was really good. I don't regret not initially starting powerlifting right off the bat. And it really helped me grow. Now, back then, I could do a lot of work. I mean, I could probably bench 3 times a week, squat 3 times a week, deadlift 3 times a week if I wanted to. My strength was always increasing. I mean, year to year, it was always going up. And I think that's something that's important to note in the beginning, that if you're just starting, you're going to see a lot of those strength increases. You won't really have an honest perception of your 1 rep max until you're really well into it, for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's just technical, efficiency. If you're not really good at the movement, it might take you a while to master it. That in itself can make you stronger. Sometimes, it's a little bit of muscle maturity. If you start young, like at 16, and you start getting older, obviously you're going to get stronger. And then sometimes it's just like commitment and staying with it for a few years just to be able to kind of build and get strong. But pretty much at a certain point, I realized I was never really going to fully be as big as I would have really liked to. And I always noticed that I leaned towards being stronger for my body weight than I ever did just being big in general. So that's when in November, it'll be 3 years, I did my first powerlifting meet. And I kind of just jumped into that one. I think for the first meet, I didn't really run specifically a powerlifting program. I might have ran something like 531 or Juggernaut or something along those lines. But even then, at that point, I could still get away with a lot of high frequency style of training, that sort of thing. I didn't really have a lot of problems like I do now. Not that they're serious, but they just affect me and slow me down a little bit more. So that was a first meet. And then throughout those 3 years, I've really evolved. I've hopped around from program to program. I've tried a bunch of different ones. I've tried 531. I've tried the cube. I've tried the Juggernaut method. Let's see. I've tried GZCL. I've tried Smolov. I've tried, there's a few other out there. The German volume training. I've tried it all. Just trying to figure out what worked best for me. And in the beginning, I think it really did help me to get a lot of that high frequency, high volume style of training to gain size, gain strength, gain technical efficiency. But if we fast forward now, about 3 years later, the volume and the frequency has dramatically decreased. So now I probably only heavy squat every other week. I only heavy deadlift every other week. and then I only bench heavy every other week as well. So pretty much I'm only going heavy every other week for the lifts. Otherwise, I'm doing stuff like pause squats, maybe conventional or deficit deadlifts, and then close grip bench, something kind of lighter in between. But I definitely can't keep up like I used to, only because, well, when I first started, I think my best total was like 1100, something like that. And then now it's 1520. So you can see there's about a 400-pound difference there in strength on my total, and that can really take a lot of wear and tear on your joints, just on your ligaments, on your muscles and everything. So it's harder to kind of get away with, maybe before I could squat 300 for reps, it's harder to squat 500 for reps now, because that takes a lot out of me. More specifically, and if you've been in powerlifting or for a while, or you're just starting it, you'll notice a lot of things like your shoulders will start aching. Usually that's from just benching or even low bar squatting. You'll get a lot of tendonitis in the elbow, in the wrist. Those are extremely common. Those are some of the things that have really bothered me in the past. Now I wear wrist wraps at all times when I bench and when I squat. I also wear elbow cuffs whenever I squat and bench, also because it takes a lot of pressure away. The knee wraps really have helped a ton, because since I squat very wide and I also pull sumo, it's very stressful on my hips, and a lot of the times there's a lot of tension there. I'm really not flexible when it comes to my hips. They're strong, but they're not very flexible, so I get a lot of tension right like on the inside of the hips. So usually the wraps take a lot of that stress out. So usually when I do go heavy, it really does relieve a little bit some of the pain or discomfort that I might sometimes feel. Sometimes even pulling sumo, if I'm really kind of taxing myself out, it'll feel like someone's just like prying and like tearing my hips apart. And when that happens, usually I know it's going to be really hard to get the weight off the floor. So sometimes when that happens, I'll switch over to conventional or something else. But those are pretty much like my biggest problems. And I think those will probably be some of the most common ones you'll find with people. But for those reasons, you could see why my volume and frequency have decreased over the years. Along those lines, before, when I first started powerlifting, I could get away with a lot of accessory work, a lot of bodybuilding style of work, a lot of that sort of stuff. And now, because of those things where like the shoulder hurts, the elbow, the wrist, the hips, it's a little harder to get away with it without agitating something. So for example, whereas before I could maybe still do like incline presses, dumbbell presses, like, different variations, it starts getting harder without putting too much stress on it, that I'm agitating it, and that later it affects my actual bench. So because of that, I've decreased my accessory work. To be honest, it's almost like none, if any. I'm trying to increase it back up. I'll talk about that in a bit. But if something bothers me, I just don't want it to. They say don't major in the minors. So I wouldn't want to, focus on being better at my accessories if it's going to affect my main lifts. So that's why my accessories have really gone down too as well. Moving forward, as a reflection, looking back, I think it makes sense to transition as you get stronger. You're not going to be able to do as much or keep as high volume. In my personal opinion, I guess it really depends on your own genetics and your own structure. Some people thrive off high volume, lots of reps. I have found that I do not. And if you feel like you're a person that really gets stressed out, CNS wise, joints wise, whatever, you might want to consider like laying back a little bit and seeing if that actually increases your performance, because sometimes it will. So reflecting back, I think it's been a good transition into this. But now looking forward, I've been in the 165 class. I would really like to jump up to the 181. To be able to do that, I would like to be about 195. So I've been trying to bulk. Right now I'm sitting about 182, 183 or so, which is close to the heaviest I've ever been. Heaviest I've ever really been is 185. So what I plan to do is kind of take some of the sort of stuff that I used to do back then and kind of bring it back. Some of the stuff that helped me get bigger in the beginning. So I know for a fact that I cannot deadlift for hypertrophy or reps or anything. It absolutely destroys my back. That's one thing I forgot to mention. It destroys my back, and it gets really fatigued to the point where I can't even deadlift if it's tired. The less I deadlift, the better. So I probably won't do much hypertrophy with that. But what I have noticed, and maybe you guys have noticed too, is with squats, it'll transfer over very well to the deadlifts. So what I plan to do is keep the heavy every other week style with the reps. Probably go doubles, every week, just progressive doubles into it. But on the days that I'm supposed to do like light, conventional work or light pause squats or something, I'd really like to bring up my volume again with the squats. So I'm thinking something like 5x5 and then slowly decreasing the volume as the percentages get heavier towards the end of the cycle. We'll see. I still don't know yet, but I definitely know I want to increase the volume of my squats and see how that helps. If it ends up killing my hips, I will stop. If it doesn't and I can handle it, I'll keep going because I have a feeling it will make me grow. And since I haven't done this in about a year and a half, I think it'll shock my body into growing a little bit more and also getting a little bit stronger. That said, deadlifts, very low frequency, can't do them very often. Squats, I know I can get away with a little bit more. I'm worried about the hips. But bench, I can definitely put in a little bit more frequency, a little bit more volume with that. At least I've noticed that sometimes it tends to do better with that, and in the past it has done better with a higher volume, higher frequency. I don't know if you guys have noticed that with your own training, but a lot of the clients I'll train, I usually increase their volume, and it usually makes their frequency, and it usually makes their bench go up. So I'm probably going to be adding like a speed day, and then every week, and then a rep day every other week, and a heavy day every other week with overload work with a slingshot. So I'll keep you guys updated on how that goes. I'll try to make videos where I post pretty much everything that I'm doing. So not only the weights that I use, but what percentage it is, what sets and rep schemes I used, why I'm doing it, and kind of walk you guys through on how I feel, and hopefully it can help you guys out to learn a little bit more insight on what's kind of helped me get to this level right now, where I'm sitting at. Hopefully a lot of this 165 strength will kind of blow up going into the 181 class. I don't know yet. We'll see. I mean, in October there's a professional meet that I might end up doing. I'd have to go 165 for that because it's cash money. So I'd really like to win at least one of the prizes. We'll see. I don't know yet. Depends on how my weight fluctuates. But just keep updated, and hopefully this video helped you guys a little bit to understand what it's kind of taken me to get up to this point and how my training has changed over the past 8 years. Thank you.